attacks on the working class and poor. How are you doing?
Good. Let me record your spiel.
Sure, no problem.
You're doing great.
Why, thank you.
Go.
My name is John. I'm a transit worker. I'm a revolutionary socialist. I'm a Trotskyist. I believe that, as Leon Trotsky believed, that permanent revolution is the only way forward for the working class, that capitalism will lead the whole world to the edge of genocide if we do not organize and fight for working class control of the economy and the resources that we produce. Our class is very powerful, but we have no control over everything we produce. And the bosses use that against us. They pit us against each other with racism and nationalism. And fundamentally, the world will not continue to exist if left under their control. And that's why it's serious for all workers to show the solidarity that begins to provide the hope for a better world. And without our class, there is no hope for humanity. Without the working class understanding that, through their own struggles, they're not going to be able to build a different kind of world under capitalism, because capitalism doesn't want any of us to have the things that we need. What it wants is profits, and that's all it wants. So
that's the spiel.
That's the spiel. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you want to ask questions, we can do that too.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the problem with that is that, I mean, this is the spiel that has been heard for like maybe 100 years.
Right. Well, Marx was right 150 years ago.
He was right.
Absolutely, he was right. He was right that capitalism created its own gravedigger when it created the working class.
Oh, sounds so familiar.
And that fundamentally.
That's what we were taught in the USSR.
What was that?
That's what we were taught in the USSR.
Yeah, but the USSR, first of all, on the USSR under Stalin or under Lenin and Trotsky? I would assume you're under Stalin or Brezhnev.
Right. Yeah, Brezhnev.
Well, what happened to the Soviet Union was that it was attacked by 21 imperialist countries. It was aided and armed.
When?
In 1917 through 1922-23. Most of the Russian working class was murdered in a bloody civil war.
Well, what do you think about Lenin's Red Terror? We were taught that too. The Red Terror.
You talking about Kronstadt?
No, we're talking about Lenin actually, basically killing his nemesis, what he called them.
What nemesis? What are you talking about?
Well, like counter-revolutionaries, Felix Dzerzhinsky, you know the whole spiel.
Okay, well,
you studied Marxism, I'm sure.
Revolutionaries who take up arms against the revolution have to be killed. What do you want to do? What would you like to do? People who are starving workers to death, should we allow them not to be arrested? Should we allow them not to be stopped from doing what they're doing?
So the Red Terror was a good thing, right?
Well, I don't agree to the term Red Terror.
But that's his words. I mean, I didn't make it up.
Well,
he said himself, Red Terror.
Right.
The proletariat, the Red Terror,
right.
Proletariat, Red Terror, that's what it was.
Armed violence on the part of the proletariat is necessary in the midst of a counter-revolution.
It is necessary.
It is necessary.
It is
necessary.
So socialism and the violence, they come together? Is that right?
Violence is endemic to capitalism, and the overwhelming majority of the violence that happened in the Soviet Union after the revolution were led by white Russian counter-revolutionaries who were aided and funded by imperialism. And the world they would have left for the Russian working class is not one you would have signed on for. It's certainly not a peaceful one, certainly not a democratic one. It would have led them to be chained to imperialism. And talk about the fight against violence. Who ended the First World War? It was the Bolsheviks pulling the Russian working class out of the First World War that ended the First World War. They were being sent into a meat grinder by the Tsar, by the millions, sent to the front to starve to death.
Never mind the Brest-Litovsk agreement where he gave away a lot of sovereign Russian territory. So he
gave away Russian territory.
Yeah, did Lenin?
The Germans as part of as part of ending the war.
So it was okay thing to do.
It was a necessary concession.
Necessary.
A necessary concession to end the war.
Now, what really I don't understand. I mean, I see the death, Stalinism, police terror, revolutionary answer. I mean, all the socialist revolution. I mean, and obviously Lenin for you is like the epitome. I mean, Lenin was the one who did it right. I mean, is that kind of the
an example of, and Lenin and the Bolsheviks are an example of how a revolutionary party can unite with the working
successfully.
class.
Yes, successfully. That's the thing. Successfully.
Well, I mean, he's successful up to the time of his death. Yeah, I mean, the revolution did not succeed because it was isolated.
But why did he resort to new economic policy in 1922?
Because the population was starving to death.
And it was Stalin because was it starving under Tsar?
It was starving.
Really?
It was
really? It was starving.
It was a starving as a consequence of the Civil War. The Civil War had destroyed...
Started by Lenin. The one that is started by Lenin.
The Civil War was not started by Lenin. The Civil War was started by the capitalist class in Russia.
Which one?
The capitalist class.
No, see, I came from Russia, so I know history pretty darn well.
I'm telling you, Lenin didn't start the Civil War. The revolution was nearly bloodless.
Really?
The storming, how many people died in the storming of the Winter Palace?
Well, it's not just...
A couple of dozen?
Yes.
The revolution was over at that point. It was the counter-revolutionaries who created the Civil War.
So you think that if Lenin had, let's say, I have an idea. I mean, I'm a megalomaniac, and I have an idea to overthrow, the regime. I mean, let's say, imperialist regime, okay? And I started a revolution. You think that everybody has, just because I have this idea, everybody has to follow me? Think about it.
First of all, you're rewriting history.
No,
Lenin didn't start a revolution.
He didn't.
No.
Who did?
The working class of Russia started the revolution.
Which one?
Both of them.
Yeah, but which one?
February 1917.
Yeah.
The mass of the working class overthrows the Tsar.
Yeah, but what happened?
Wait. Then the working class leadership at the time, the Mensheviks, handed power to the capitalist class.
But they were not Mensheviks, as you know.
Yes, they were.
No, they were not. Menshevik means the minority. And Lenin turned it around. Bolsheviks,
Again,
the majority, was actually a minority.
The Congress of 1903, the Bolsheviks were in the majority and the Mensheviks were in the minority. And that's where the term comes from. From the convention of 1903.
Yeah, but convention is just a convention. Okay, look.
That's where it comes from. That is the moment in which there were two factions created, the majority and the minority. Those names stuck. Okay? Those names stuck. The Mensheviks were fine calling themselves Menshevik.
But we know that actually the so-called Bolsheviks were in minority.
Absolutely.
They were in minority.
But they were.
But the first revolution. Okay, let's forget about the history. I mean, history is history. I understand. I mean, we can interpret it one way or another. Today, 21st century America, socialist revolution is the only solution. I mean, how should I interpret that?
That if there is no socialist revolution, then we're going to see the continuing decline of capitalism.
Is it declining, really?
Absolutely.
It is declining.
Is there any doubt?
In my mind, yes.
Crisis after crisis, just look. All you have to do is look at the quality of life of the working class. Right?
Are you working class?
Yes.
And how is your life?
Getting worse.
Getting worse.
Every
working class life in Africa. How is it in China? How is it in Puerto Rico?
And that's because of capitalism, right?
Yes.
And how was life? Do you want me to share my experience of life in the USSR?
Terrible. That was capitalism too.
USSR. I mean, then
we actually say that the Soviet Union was capitalist.
You say that. So words, definitions really have no meanings to you.
Yes,
No, they do.
But look,
there was a capitalist class and a working class.
Wait. So
there was a capitalist class and a working class.
What's the definition?
The nomenclatura was the capitalist class.
Okay.
A regent class.
If you look at the sky right now, is it blue? It's blue.
Do you know why
right?
it's blue?
No, yes, I know. I studied physics, but that's besides the point.
Raman scattering.
But yeah, I know. But I went to college, so we can talk about physics, science on the side. But you're here not as a scientific professor, whatever you learned. You're here about socialist revolution. The reason I brought up the sky.
And we are scientists. We are Marxists.
Okay.
This is a scientific book about how the
the
law
life
of
and death
value
of
and the laws of
Stalinism.
capitalism.
Okay,
Capitalism is defined by the
applies in
operational
stone.
law of value.
But now, if we talk about the definitions, I mean, this is your definition. You can go on Wikipedia. You can go anywhere. There are two major things that would define the capitalism versus socialism.
Was the working class in Russia after 1936?
Private. See, you brought up the really important thing.
Was capitalism private from the working class after 1936 in Stalinist Russia?
Are you talking about
Did the Russian working class control property after 1936 in Stalin's Russia?
Everything in the Soviet Union or any so-called socialist country was controlled by the government.
Bureaucracy.
By the state,
100,
not by the
and-
working
By the
class.
working class.
But it doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
That's fundamentally the
What's-
definition of socialism.
The working class controls the state in socialism.
And who was Stalin? I mean, by
Stalin was
Stalin
was
was
he?
the grand usurper. I mean, come on, what are you
He was
talking
the leader
about?
of the bureaucracy.
Lenin hadn't died.
yeah,
he would've killed him.
but if you like talking about classes, what class did Stalin come from?
First of all, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You grew up in the Soviet Union.
Correct.
Was there a working class in the Soviet Union when you grew up?
Everybody was working class.
No, not
essentially.
everybody
Yes,
was
everybody
working.
was
No,
working. Oh, yes.
no,
Including the
there
leadership.
was a nomenclatura.
But
Nomenclatura
who was
were not working
who was
class.
okay? Who was
By any sort of imagination
But
that they
who-
worked for a living.
who was Khrushchev?
was-
Originally, where did he come from?
It doesn't matter where you come
Oh
from.
yes, it does. Oh yes, it does. But
It doesn't matter where you come from.
so
Engels was a
Look at Bill
capitalist.
Clinton.
yeah. What about
Bill
him?
Clinton came from a poor family in Arkansas.
Is he not a capitalist?
Is he not part of the capitalist class? Obviously he is.
The difference between Bill Clinton and even the top-notch people in the USSR, the topmost, which is the general secretary of the Communist Party, obviously. The difference between Bill Clinton, did Bill Clinton own a house? Did he or did he not?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
You're telling me the nomenclatura did not
own
own
houses?
anything?
See, you didn't do your homework because nomenclature had absolutely nothing. 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 They owned.
Except they ended up being
On
the
paper,
capitalist
they had
class
No,
after.
no. We're talking about the times before 1991, when yes, the system did change. But before 1991, Brezhnev had absolutely nothing. He had no private property. Did you know that?
Except effectively he lived a life that was very similar to those of the ruling
As
class
long
in the West.
as long.
Was Nasser a socialist because you had nationalized property in Egypt?
Well, we were talking. Listen.
Well, no, I'm saying no.
We're
Because
talking.
you're fetishizing. No, you're fetishizing the form and not the content. The class content of society is the question.
What's the definition of capitalism versus socialism? I mean, that's the key question. You call Soviet Union
Control
capitalism.
of the capitalist class is the hallmark of the capitalist system.
Egypt
The
was
working
capitalist.
class-
Socialist
Yeah.
Nasser, yes, it was a capitalist system over there.
Right.
Yes,
but
even
the
though
nationalized property doesn't
Yes.
tell me what the class nature of the state is, because there are country after country around the world for centuries that have had nationalized property. Okay.
Yeah,
the
it's still-
property forms
and it
are
still
not
can be.
what- it still can be capitalist.
Still can be capitalist.
Yeah, okay.
But in USSR,
Right. Right.
nobody had private property. Not a single person. It did not exist,
They had
and yet.
privileges and they had perks related to the
Wait,
fact they were members of the bureaucracy.
Yes,
They
but
engaged
not
in a bloody
yes.
purge that murdered
Yes,
millions of
I agree. Yes,
assets.
yes, but private property, which is the definition of capitalism, did not.
Private property, but they
But-
enjoyed all the privileges of private property.
It's not.
You can enjoy whatever you want. The definitions. That's why I brought up this guy to have a kind of conversation where we hopefully can agree on something. We have to abide by the definitions. If you and I look at the sky and all of us see that the
As far
sky
as
is
I'm
blue
concerned, if the
because of
working
the
class-
scattering.
As far as I'm concerned, if a working class exists, period,
Yes.
you're in capitalism, period.
But if everybody is working class,
That's impossible.
Yeah.
but in the
That's
Soviet
impossible.
Union, in the
That's
Soviet Union,
impossible. You haven't read your Marx.
I have to read Marx. You know how many
Hold
years
on,
I had to
hold
study?
on,
I had
hold
to
on,
read Marx. You must
hold
be
on.
kidding me.
The two classes exist simultaneously. They can't exist without each other.
Okay, let's
So if
assume.
you have a working class, you have a capitalist class. The capitalist class in Russia was a regent class, holding power for a traditional bourgeoisie.
So capitalist class, even though they didn't own anything.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
They had all the rights.
Over all the capital.
But there is no private
That's okay.
property.
The
That's
definition-
okay.
The fundamental definition of capitalism is the operational law of value and the rule of the capitalist class.
The definition of capitalism is two things: A, private property, and B, profit. It's very simple.
No,
None of it.
It's
when
not.
you have it equal where they had nationalized property, They were capitalists.
Well, you can
because the capitalist class controlled the means of production. You don't have to have a title deed to have effective control over the means of production.
But it was private property. Fine, it was a private property. I agree. But in the Soviet Union, look, the point that I'm trying to make, when you or anyone would call the Soviet Union capitalist, the answer is no.
So you're saying that state capitalism is impossible?
There isn't such a thing. There wasn't such a thing.
No, you're saying it's impossible to have state capitalism. That is the capitalist class as a whole controlling the state, controlling the means of production.
Yeah.
You're saying that's impossible.
No.
Why?
It is possible. It's just not capitalism. That's it.
Of course it's capitalism.
No, it's not. When there's no private property, how can it be capitalism? It's so simple, no?
No, it's not so simple.
No.
Because
if there's no private property, how can it be capitalism? I mean, by definition, again, the sky is blue because of scattering. We know that.
Okay.
Capitalism is capitalism.
There are countries where they have nationalized.
But it doesn't matter in Argentina, in Great Britain. Yeah, they nationalize some industries, but the system is.
Are those industries capitalist? Yes or no? You're saying it's impossible.
Capitalism doesn't exist within industry. Capitalism exists within a country, within the boundaries of a particular.
Internationally, but that's another matter. But
okay, nation, country, it's the same thing, defined by borders.
No, international. Capitalism became international century and a half.
Okay, let's say. Okay, look, we're splitting here. So let me ask another question.